here, so I want to do a quick follow-up on some baton videos I've done in the past. And some of this is COVID inspired because of COVID-19. A lot of departments are doing training without actually grappling, and it's neither here nor there. I get it. I personally feel like that training is super important, but we have health concerns. So I want to emphasize the importance of a kick and the baton together. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, you've got somebody, you've already got a possible threat and you got your baton out, or in this case, maybe you have a taser out, or maybe you have your pepper spray out. All that is fine and dandy because you've prepared for it. So the guy's like, brings his fists up, or he starts stepping towards you, and you spray him. Okay, great, inert spray. So this kind of relates to any of these tools. You already have it out, or you need time to get it out. The guy steps towards you with, in a fighting stance. You can articulate gram factors, fighting stance, verbiage, grooming. He brought his fists up. He stepped in your direction. He's not banging your verbal commands like get back, get back. You're in a defensive stance. You're not just in a regular interview stance or something like this. You've got your hands up because he stepped forward. A great way to keep him off of you long enough to get to your tools is a front kick, either lead leg or rear leg. You need to practice that kick. It's super important kick. Of all the strikes you practice in law enforcement, in my mind, that's the most important kick. Now, I've had officers tell me that they don't feel comfortable kicking because they don't practice it. I've had some legitimate comments, like somebody who wrestles or something, and they're much more comfortable, like shooting for a double leg or something like that. That's completely fine. But the majority of officers, some guy throws that punch, and I teach them the shell up and attack and enter the clinch for a body lock takedown. All that is great. Or your typical Krav where you do a 360 aggressive entry, boom, all that is great. But a lot of officers aren't comfortable with that. They want to keep their distance. You know that I push grappling techniques along with striking techniques. I think it's all important. One thing is certain, the average police officer, and I use this extremely generically, a lot of cops are 20, 30 pounds overweight, or they're wearing at least 20, 30 pounds worth of duty gear, and rolling around on the ground with somebody almost feels like being a turtle on your back. The Gracies like to demonstrate working out with your duty belt on, but let's face it, they're young, athletic, 4th, 5th degree black belts, and throwing on a training belt don't mean shit to them. They can rock that shit all day long. Where the average officer isn't as physically fit, there are some young bucks and female officers that are total kick-ass and can handle this shit all day, every day. But we're talking generically. I like to keep somebody off me with that front kick, and then up comes, this is a training baton, I'm going to put this one away. Come off with that front kick, I put my baton out, boom, and they're re-aggressing because of the kick, let's face it, unless you are just super powerful. You can take them out with that. I've taken people out with that several times in my career, where you hit them in the diaphragm, and then you can snatch them and slap them to the ground. But that knocks them back, which is what you want, and they re-engage. Now I want you to imagine that they're in a fighting stance. We all know that hitting with baton is major muscle groups. And I'll try to remember to add the Monadnock chart about major muscle groups, but also really important secondary groups. My favorite place to swing for when they're up in a fighting stance, getting ready to start pummeling on you, is swinging down onto their forearm. Now I want you to imagine that Bob here actually has arms, and I popped my baton out, boom, and I was like, get back, and he's still coming. I like this action here. I am swiping down. I'm just swiping down. Now you notice I'm striking with my lead hand. That's a take from Filipino martial arts. I'm sure there's other martial arts that talk about hitting with the rear hand. My problem with the rear hand strike is I lose distance versus striking with this. I have like 6 to 8 inches longer reach potential, getting out of his swinging. That, you know, the sucker punch, I have way more distance with a lead hand strike, and you can still do a lot of damage because you're moving your hips. So I want you to practice coming down and kind of like the windmill effect, and then you can come down like this. This is just practicing this one motion. A lot of departments or academies, they teach that caveman rear hand. I see this on video where you got the guy with 2 hands like he's holding a baseball bat and he's hitting somebody in the thigh. Now there's nothing wrong with that. It's a completely awesome target, except that it's a massive muscle group. And this guy's full of adrenaline. I have seen on multiple occasions in my 24-year career where I've seen batons just like just bounce off of people because they're pissed. But have you ever wrapped your knuckles or somebody hit you really hard in the forearm? Completely viable target. He's threatening you with his fist. He's coming at you in a fighting direct, and he's like actively beginning to swing on you. You sidestep angles, boom. You're cutting the angles. Almost reminiscent, and I'll pretend that this training baton is a knife. I've had a lot of experience with knife sparring, which I think in and of itself is kind of bullshit, because you're not going to see this on the street. 2 guys like, whoa, they're not going to be doing that shit on the street. But in some schools and that I participated in the past, they're sitting there and they're doing all this stuff like this, and it's all cool and fun, but a lot of potential, or a lot of success I had was just coming in for the jugular, and I just keep coming, and a lot of times it overwhelms them. It's so simple, but this is the same shit you see inmates using. Why? Because the shit works. The knife doesn't come out to the last second, and then you're slicing across the jugular, and you just keep going. If they're bringing their hand up, then you're slicing their hand, you redirect it, and then you're going with the knife across the throat. Same concept with the baton, that swiping motion, and you're getting out of the range, you're cutting. They have to turn and face you. So you're cutting, keeping your hand up, throwing an occasional kick, because sometimes this isn't going to be enough. I've seen that these batons are awesome tools, but a baton originally is a stick. In the caveman days, they hit you over the head with it, and a very effective tool. But because we use it for less lethal, we're hitting all the major muscle groups other than the noggin. Again, reasonably objective. There are definitely reasonably objective uses of the baton in a deadly force encounter. Maybe that's what's in your hand. That is what is in your hand when that knife comes out. So you, bam, totally acceptable. Even though they teach you the head is not a target. In that scenario, it's reasonably objective. Graham v. Connor. So, to recap, I want you to practice push kicks, cutting the baton, angles, boom, don't forget the handle. You can come down using the baton as a way to clinch. These are all concepts. Next week I'm going to be teaching another class within my area. You know who you are. If you see this video ahead of time, because of the COVID, and we're going to be setting up a lot of heavy bags, and we're going to be doing a lot of baton work, transitioning to taser, transitioning to pepper spray, transitioning to lethal force. These are all concepts. You notice that I threw shit away. I have had people say, well, you would never want to throw away your tools. But especially when you're transitioning from non-lethal to lethal, if this turns into a lethal force encounter where I've got my pepper spray out, boom, and all of a sudden it's just not working, and he's like, fuck, I'm gonna kill you, and out comes the knife. I'm just getting rid of that shit, and I'm sidestepping, and I'm pulling out my lethal force. I'm not gonna take the time to like, whoa, and fine motor skills to try to get this thing back into my pouch. Same with the taser. I take the taser out, taser, boom, I hit him with the taser prongs. They teach you, oh, it's not effective, so you've got to switch out, put on a new cartridge. Most cops don't carry a second cartridge. If you carry the Taser 7 or the Taser 8, you can, I haven't trained with that one yet. I'm getting certified down the road because we're switching to them. Then you can shoot off a second cartridge. That's the advantage of that particular model. But if I got a taser, boom, and it's not working, and he comes out with a knife or he starts pulling out a gun, I don't need that anymore. I'll throw it at him. I've had people say you should never do that, but we do transition drills on the range, and I've done it myself, and I've seen people do it. They're shooting, bam, 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 and then you put your gun away, you're doing this, okay, second threat, non-lethal, boom, you taser, 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 oh, he's got a knife. Out comes the knife, or gun. Most of the time, I see people just drop the taser, and that's just your brain saying, fuck this noise, don't need this because it's not working. Out comes the knife, out comes the gun. Obviously it's not working, get rid of it. Turn it into an impact weapon or a distraction. It's not working, throw it at the bad guy, and then transition to your gun. Quick recap though, what I want you to think about is impact tools. I'm a big fan of I can talk today, a big fan of the baton, but in the right context. The reason I've downed it in the past is because a lot of officers just don't train it enough. So they end up doing this kind of crap, and they end up getting punched, or they just don't feel confident with it. So you're like, sir, get back, bam! And then out comes the baton. You can turn it into a grappling situation, or out comes the baton, he throws that punch, and you bam, 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 and then go in for the clinch. Don't go like, he's gonna throw that punch and I'm trying to do some ninja entanglement. I know from experience coming from Hapkido that shit doesn't actually work in real life. Pissed off a lot of Hapkido practitioners or traditional Jujitsu practitioners, but the reason Brazilian Jujitsu and catch wrestling and stuff like that work is because you're not trying to manipulate small joints. You're coming in and you're manipulating the whole body using off-balancing techniques. Think about that when you're using your baton. Kick comes in, boom, boom, boom. Maybe then I come up and I grab the arm and do some kind of like maybe Russian 2-on-1 with the baton. I can like set the baton in there with it, or maybe just get rid of it. I'm not a big fan of throwing things away indiscriminately, but you get a 2-on-1, maybe you can tuck it under your arm and continue with the 2-on-1 to the takedown. Maybe I'll do that with a training partner in the future, but again, just to sign off, before I sign off, kick, strike, 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 strike. Oh, lethal force. Now you're transitioning. Or maybe he strips the baton, bam, push off, and you use your taser. These are just transition drills that I'm talking about. But specifically, kicking the baton. I want you to think about that. All major muscle groups are a go. The arms are a secondary target, completely acceptable. I'm a big fan of hitting the arms. These are still smaller muscles because they're forearms. But he is actively trying to hit you with these weapons. You are trying to defang the snake, using Filipino terminology. I'm destroying his weapons, stopping his weapons. All right, I think that takes care of it. Can't get this close. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. Screw it. Feel free to call me or email me or text me or send a raven or what have you. Take care.
Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful.